Hello, lucky ladies and gents, and welcome on to this week's episode of Ibiza with Mike, right here on Lucky Life TV. For today's episode, I wanted to make sure everything was perfect as can be, so I've got myself a nice microphone with the mic top, like Mike's top would be if I still had a top, and I might pop back to a script every now and then because it's quite a long and deep story. As in this week's episode, I'll be introducing you to someone who, in my eyes, is the biggest Ibiza legend that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and spending some quality time with. Now, before we dive deep into this episode, if you haven't already, I invite you to click subscribe below so that you can be the first to be informed of episodes upcoming, and also check out some of the reels that I'm releasing with next day after movies from the current events and parties that are going on in Ibiza at the moment. It is free to subscribe, so you can just go ahead and click that button there. We're going to be going backstage, behind the real Ibiza scenes, into the home and private workspace of this real Ibiza legend, so that we can get some tips and techniques of how to live a truly lucky, wholesome, and happy life. Can you guess who this legend might be? Could it be one of the world's most famous DJs that I've had the pleasure of working with? Maybe Carl Cox, Armin van Buuren? Could it be Paul van Dyk? Or maybe one of the industry legends that I've had the pleasure of interviewing? Somebody like Matt Adele, the ex-CEO of Beatport. Or maybe it's Danny Whittle, the owner and founder of the Ibiza International Music Summits. Or could it be Jason Bull, the man behind the one and only Sands Beach Bar, Esvive Hotel, and Bass Bar, which will be reviving next week as well, fantastically. Well, actually, no. It's none of the great men that I've just named. This legend, in fact, is a lady. And she has nothing to do with the dance music or travel industries that I live in, work in, and love so much. This legend of a lady came into my life, or rather, very luckily, led me into her life at an incredibly important time of my life. It was just 6 months after I faced a serious roadside accident that nearly smashed the life out of me, put me in ICU for several operations, followed by 5 months of recuperation in the heels of Ibiza. And then, shortly after, my father passed away, just a month before the start of the Ibiza season. After all of this, I was in need of a new home, a happy and a healthy one, where I could continue on my road to recovery while I rebuilt my business, my life, and my brain and my body too. Luckily, a friend of mine from the streets of Playa Bossa, the man behind the Space and now High Ibiza merchandising store, aptly named Pepe, told me that they were considering renovating a garage and wine storage room on his mother's farmland, just south of Santa Gertrudis in the center of the island. And if I wanted, that could be my home. Well, I had no idea just how lucky I was at the time, and what a great influence this new home would have on my health and well-being, as well as my outlook on life and how I was living it prior to my accident. Meet Pepe's mom, Eulalia, at the time a 96-year-old lady, now 101 years old, who still, to this day, farms her land by hand, growing a wide array of fruits and vegetables which feed not only herself and the chickens that were kept in my backyard, but also her extended family, myself, and many, many more. This, lucky ladies and gents, is the real Ibiza legend. Here's a few points to note about this inspirational lady. She has lived from and on the land her entire life, so deeply connected to the flow of Mother Nature and the rhythms of life that she knows exactly when to reap and when to sow, with a range of special techniques for a more effective yield no matter what the seed. She's so fit in her old age that when I would return home, for example, on a Wednesday morning at 6 or 7 a.m. after an all-night adventure filming Carl Cox's final year at Space Ibiza, I would find Eulalia up and at it, alone, hoe in hand, working the land. And I just think, whoa, what a legend. In her 70s, she once fell and broke her arm, so her family had to take her to the doctors. However, during this appointment, the doctors searched all through their records and the hospital system and couldn't find a single trace of her at all. Her healthy lifestyle, strict routine, and connection to the flow of nature had made her such a strong lady that, until then, she had never once been in need of medical assistance in any way at all. And so, once again, I sat back and thought, what a legend. And then there were the days when, while sat in my studio, which was previously their wine cellar actually, and I'd be working at the peak Ibiza summer pace, I'd get a knock at the door. Eulalia would be there, and she would say something to me in her deep, thick Ibicenc dialect.
Pero sobre San Juan, para Yaniura, para Ampere.
Ale.
Not Spanish, not Catalan, this is Ibicenc, the language of the island. And I hardly understood Spanish at the time, never mind Ibicenc. So I would just look up in confusion and kind of agree with her and just wonder what that was all about, really. And I'd crack on with my work and Eulalia would walk off, only to find her back at the door about half an hour or 45 minutes later, because that's how long it took her to get to their house and back. And she would have a handful of fruits and vegetable for me, fresh from the land. And I would just again think, what a legend. And how lucky am I?
Check it.
Now, lucky ladies and gents, by this stage of my Ibiza life, most of my surface level dreams had already come true. I'd been backstage at all the major nightclubs of Ibiza. I'd walked my clients into Pasha and Space through the kitchen entrance and helped my guests attend many of the top industry events. But then, one day, I got to be the personal host for Eulalia, the real Ibiza legend.
Hola, mundo. Vamos saliendo en este momento, Pepito.
Although she loved her land and to tend to it day in and day out, when there was a special gathering that called for her attendance, she was all up for getting out and about amongst friends for good music, food and entertainments. On this lucky day, I had the honor of chauffeuring Eulalia to a truly authentic local event in a tent on the streets of San Antonio. The same streets, in fact, where my early Ibiza rave days were born some 15 years ago on the Ibizan Heat tours. I'm so glad I've got these little moments captured to share with you now, as this sure was, and still is, one of the highlights of my Ibiza life so far. One I'll never forget and forever be grateful for. At this event, I got to see the biggest paella being made I've ever seen in my life. I got to see some local Spanish artists performing on stage. And I got to have some lovely conversations with the Ibiza locals, trying out some of their local drink as well, and learning about how it's made too. All round, an incredible experience that I will never forget. Along with several other sacred journeys I've taken throughout my life, which I will share with you in time, living with Eulalia and also being in contact with Pepe and the 4 generations of the Ibicenco family for 18 months of my Ibiza life was one of the greatest gifts this island has ever given to me. Living with Eulalia truly helped me reconnect with Source, with the essence of life, of food, of health, and also to gain a deeper understanding of the cycle of life.
Él va para las gallinas, ¿me entiende?
Sí?
I van venir uns mallorquins
Ja.
i diuen que li deixen fer fotos per fer una cambra. Dic, sí, totes les que vulguin. I llavors tothom, ja et van veure per la tele. I jo no em vaig veure mai, ja ho veu, no?
No entiendo.
No, jo no em vaig veure jo mateixa. No. Però jo que més si vaig en su capell vell ni nou.
Ja.
No és veritat?
Sí, es verdad. Perfecte.
Jo tota la vida, lo meu ha set la tierra.
Ja.
Tota la vida.
Toda la vida. Tú estás con la tierra, ¿no? Tú con...
Y eran pobrecitos, yo y mi marido. Un dia li deixé de veure a mi marido. Ara no, perquè estic tallant patata. I eren pobritos que no teníem nada. Mica, nada.
Estem fent una tauleta a sobre.
Escolta'm, que jo si en tenc 100 quilos també.
Bueno,
I la terra buida no deixa nada.
Bueno, trobo que no deixa que està...
Ja. Jo ho fas jo, no t'ho manes tu.
For example, I would make salads, juices and smoothies each day, mostly with fruits and vegetables from the land, and then I would donate my organic wastes to feed the chickens. The more I fed myself, and the better I fed myself, the more and the better the chickens were fed too. And so in turn, the more eggs I was gifted each day from Eulalia too. And so the cycle goes. Ha! Did you see that? The script just got shat on. That's a lucky sign if ever. Thank you very much for not doing it on my shoulder too. I also learnt about the power of composting, about giving back to the land rather than sticking it in a bag. And then watching that feed the flowers that only a few months later, in turn, would again feed me too. And so the cycle continues. Eulalia and Pepe taught me techniques which I have documented and hope to put to practice when I one day have my own Ibiza farmland, such as using cal, which you turn into a white paint from burning stones at a high heat for an extended period of time.
Pintar los naranjeros. Estic fent-ho.
¿Con qué?
Los naranjos de cal viva,
¿Y por qué?
perquè això mata els piojos i tot. Li fa molt bo.
Es una protección.
Sí. Tot això, tota aquesta taca que tenen, tot això li fugirà. Hem de mirar de conservar-lo si podem.
Mi madre está pintando los naranjos con cal viva para prevenir insectos y enfermedades de los naranjos.
I also got to take part in the annual olive picking day.
One of my favorite things about this little magical island of Ibiza is the tasty olives that you get in all the bars and restaurants, and olives and aioli and tastiness that we find in all the restaurants. And today, for the first time, I get to join the family in some olive picking from the tree just behind my kitchen window. So, me, Eulalia, Pepe, picking out some olives. These are all gonna, how much, Pepe, how much will we get? 100 kilograms.
150.
150 kilograms of olives off of this tree and the other one we have, and that will make a shit ton of olive oil. Tasty, lovely Ibiza olive oil. And Pepe, you said the olive tree is very easy, yeah? You don't have to do very much to him.
Yeah.
You take the water from the ground and once a year you have 150 kgs of olives. What a good tree you are. Amazing. Just a tree, and look at how much we make.
I learned special techniques for erecting tomato trees for better growth.
Y eso es para ayudar a los tomates, para llegar en grandes, ¿no?
Per comer és de bo.
Pero esto leña, es para ayuda.
Sí, perquè se vengan arriba.
Ok, bueno. ¿Y cuánto tiempo por los tomates? ¿Por los tomates?
Allà en su juny.
En junio.
Sí, en su juny.
Ok, bueno.
Però sobre Sant Joan, per allà, ja n'hi haurà. Em pareix.
Vale.
I also learned some of Eulalia's planting techniques, my favorite of which was the spring onion.
Cebolla.
Ah, más cebolla, ¿ya? Perfecto. ¿Cómo va el terreno? ¿Todo bien?
Sí.
Sí. ¿Y la familia ayúdate hoy?
Sí.
Sí.
Pepe also showed me new things I could do with food, my favorite of which was boiling the skin of the artichoke to make a tea which can boost immunity, relieve stress and anxiety, lower cholesterol levels, and much, much more. To be honest, all of this brought me home, through the old ways of life, and also through the flavors of the food. Just like when I was a barefoot child growing up in the lands of South Africa, I could walk again outside my house, pick a fruit off the tree, and munch it right there and then. No washing or preparation needed.
Should we wash it? Nah, just from Mother Earth. Amazing.
Almost every day I was gifted fresh foods. Aubergines, tomatoes, onions, loquats, potatoes, watermelon, and so much more.
Even from the floor, don't even have to pick the tree. How lucky are we?
And my goodness, the flavors of these foods reminded me of childhood meals had made me realize how tasteless and unnourishing the mass-produced foods of the supermarkets are in comparison. It was so good that I easily moved to a plant-based diet for the time I lived there and several years after. As I worked and strived through 2016 and 2017 to rebuild my life and business, my body and my brain, grafting day and night to find ways to survive and thrive on this often overpriced and somewhat complicated island, I watched this old yet powerful lady work in collaboration with the land, which in turn provided for not only herself, but her extended family and my lucky self too. This time of life sure did make me question how I, and all of us in fact, were and still are going about our lives.
Árboles de móvil. Ah, qué bueno. Pero ¿cuánto tiempo peor estos?
Poco tiempo el móvil.
Poco tiempo, ¿no? Pero buen precio, ¿no?
Buen precio. Se vende bien. Abono orgánico de caballo, mira. Aquí te lo pone, ¿eh?
¿Y cuál es esto?
Abono para las sandías y los melones.
Okay.
Esto para sandía y melones.
Okay.
Y melones. Ahora verás cómo lo sembramos. Eso se va a trobar con una amarga. Que este año solamente van a comer lechugas, cebollas, patatas y melones. Para ti, solo.
Perfecto.
¿Eh? Vamos a vender las cebollas en high.
Discoteca orgánico.
Now, you're probably wondering, why the hell did I leave a heaven of a home like that? Well, as this is a series of authentic stories about my journeys through life here on Ibiza, I'll tell you, what actually happened is I had dedicated far too much of my time and energy into working on projects that were, let's just say, not honoring the deal. And it meant that I ended the 2017 summer broke. The government took the last of my rent money out of my bank account, and I was like, something ain't right here. I had to get back to the drawing board, so jumped off the island and went back to one of my old sales jobs in the UK and over in New Zealand, and did a 5-month session of back to the real world, back into the city sales. And while I was down in the Southern Hemisphere, I was lucky enough to pop over to Sydney to work on a shoot with the T1000 Electric Gardens Festival. And got to interview my man, Fatboy Slim.
Does that sound like a deal?
Yeah, that sounds like a deal.
Cool. We'll see you then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Cheers.
And from this, a really special message was given to me. I was there shooting his main stage gig, Eat, Sleep, Rave, Repeat, Eat, Sleep, Rave, Repeat. And when I returned back to New Zealand, and I was sitting by myself on Waiheke Island on my dad's birthday, just wondering about my place in the dance music industry, and where do I really sit with all this Eat, Sleep, Rave, Repeat? I couldn't carry on living like that, so I needed a change. And a beautiful download came to me that day, which I'll always say was a gift from my dad. I will always know was a gift from my dad. And I suddenly got the Eat, Sleep, Rave, Retreat. Because it's all about the balance. Watch this space, because we're about to be launching very soon the 2022 Eat, Sleep, Rave, Retreat.
You need to arrive at this point to understand that it's not about only rave, it's not about only eat, yeah? It's about like a complex of all of this.
It's a perfect way to actually explore different parts of what's going on in Ibiza and have a little bit of everything what Ibiza offers. And not go crazy on either side, really.
And if you find your balance, because each one has his own balance, then you're gonna be a happy man, you know?
So, on that note, I'd like to say a very, very big thank you to Eulalia, Pepe, and the 4 generations of their family for welcoming me into their home, onto their farm, and for making this a truly lucky life for me in Ibiza. A very big thank you to every one of you for joining me on this series, Ibiza with Mike. And if you haven't already, do click subscribe below. It is free and it keeps you up to date with my weekly episodes as well as my daily reports on the current events here in Ibiza. And remember, if you're coming out to Ibiza this summer and you're looking for a host to help you guide your way through this magical island, do give me a call and I'd be happy to help you make it a truly unforgettable experience. Until the next time, ladies and gents, stay lucky. And be sure to join me for the next episode as I'll show you another one of my favorite places to sleep and to retreat yourself on this magical island of Ibiza. If you're loving the series, be sure to check out the full playlist right over here, where you can see all 4 episodes that are passed on already. And just over here, you can check out some of the work I've done with electric gardens over in Australia. Big love to you all from Ibiza. See you this summer.
Eulalia, muchísimas gracias por enseñarme cómo hacer todo en la huerta, orgánico. La vida mejor, ¿no?
Això és molt sano.
¿Te gusta la vida así?
Gràcies a Déu, tenc 97 anys.
Eso es muchos años. Y tú tienes salud también, todavía tienes salud.
Gràcies a Déu, sí.
Sí. Gracias por enseñarme, es todo esto.